Are you ready to redefine what it means to thrive at any age? Welcome to Age is Just a Number with BJ and Ruth. In your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, you deserve to live your best life. Say goodbye to preconceived notions and let's shatter those stereotypes together. Get ready to own your vitality because age, well, that's just a number.
Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Ruth.
And we're back talking all things health and fitness.
Health and fitness.
I was about to say real estate.
Oh no, fitness. All the way.
We're talking about health and fitness. And so just want to thank you all for joining us. And if you haven't, please take a minute, subscribe to the channel. We are building a community here and we're putting out regular content. So you want to make sure that you don't miss anything. And to do that, just subscribe. So you're catching everything that we're talking about. And today, specifically, we're talking about in your 40s, 50s, 60s, even if it applies sort of in your 30s as well. Mm-hmm. But we're going to talk about 7 things that no one tells you about adding muscle in your 40s, 50s, 60s, let's say 40s and on.
Yep.
Okay. So the first one, we've talked about this before and spent actually one whole episode talking about this, is as you age, you need more protein. Okay? The simple rule of thumb that we've always talked about is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight.
Right.
Okay? And we might want to qualify that to say per pound of body weight that you want to get to versus if you're 20 or 30 or 40 pounds overweight, you don't need the extra 20 or 30 or 40 grams of protein.
Right.
Right? Like if you know my lean is this number and we want to get to this number, then this is how we set it up.
So
right?
Speaking of protein, did you see my Facebook post today? Do you know there are 4 grams of protein in a Reese's peanut butter cup?
With wow, with how many grams of sugar?
Oh no, we're not counting that.
Right?
Are we? We're talking
Right?
protein.
Oh man. Yeah. So I guess what we should add to that is something called clean protein.
Plain protein, because a chicken breast is very different than a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's even steak is fine, but you just need to be aware there's
fat associated
right. with that
so
steak.
there are leaner choices of protein than one's heavier in fat and sugar, which is carbs.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing that happens. It's called anabolic resistance as you age. And what that means is your body less efficiently uses protein. It becomes resistant to adding or incorporating that protein for your body to use.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this is why protein is such a priority. And a lot of times when we get busy and we're on the go and things like that, we'll grab something to eat. Like we've probably all done it, where it's what's easy to eat and in a convenience store. It's usually all junk.
It's all junk.
Right?
Or sometimes if you've gone too long and you're too hungry and you're going to crave something that's higher in carb.
Yeah, and you don't care when you get to that point.
When you get to that point, you really
don't care.
Yeah.
It's all like, I'm going to eat all 14 of these bags of nachos if it's me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was recently, it was a free week essentially ended up being, but recently out of town with my daughter and we were, just what are we going to eat? I was like, you know what? We're going to Taco Bell.
Oh.
And it absolutely was exactly the way I remember it when I was in university and going to Taco Bell, because you could get a chili cheese burrito for $1.50 or something like that.
And
so you can get 14 of them, literally.
And all my best girlfriends know me. My favorite treat: a whiskey, a Jameson whiskey, and fries.
Okay.
No protein in either of those,
right?
But it's my absolute favorite treat.
Yeah. So, but I don't think we can overemphasize the importance of protein.
Exactly.
And especially as you age, because we were, Ruth and I were just talking about this beforehand about how important it is to add muscle as you age.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A friend of mine who watches this channel, and he told me about his results where he went to his doctor and he started incorporating some of the things we talked about, and he's taking in more protein and creatine and things like that we've talked about. He said when he went for his latest checkup, his doctor was like, what are you
doing?
Yeah, like, what have you done? Who are you? You're like, your numbers are just off the charts so good for your blood work and everything else. And He said, we've never seen you have these good measurements for everything, and you're physically, you're stronger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, just from applying some of these simple things.
Yeah.
But protein is one of the things that he started to incorporate right away.
Yeah.
So.
And I always think knowledge is power. It's very empowering. So when I talk about my favorite treats and things like that, and I know when I'm eating protein, and I know the value of it and the importance of it. So give yourself that knowledge, which is empowering, and then make your choices. And so if you know you're making a not so good choice, then like I look at it like, then how can I incorporate that protein into that meal? And I'll find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, number 2. As you age, you need to rest more.
Yeah.
So you need, now there's a couple of parts to that. You need more recovery time. So that's recovery time between parts or between workouts, we could say.
Yeah.
We also need more time, generally speaking, if you're going to the gym and doing weights, you need more time between sets.
Yeah.
Just simply, like, you know, a minute or 2 minutes between sets is probably, that's pretty quick.
It is.
Right?
It is.
So you're going to need
your time under tension is going to be different.
Yeah, and you just need to give yourself more rest between sets, so that you're not just flying through, as you know, the sets, and giving yourself that time. The other thing is, as you age, it's important to be aware of what your training frequency is, because you probably will need to cut that back at some point, and how much you're training when you're there.
Yeah, and I think it's really important also to listen to your body. So, you know, I had a day this earlier this week where my legs, I trained them really, really hard, and to the point that I wasn't pleasantly sore. I was achingly in pain, and so I backed it off. I backed up the training, and how I did that was I did 2 days of no cardio. So I would just let my legs rest, and in that 48 hours where they're recovering, I took all my cardio out so that I wasn't adding more to it. So it's just being mindful of what the body is telling you. Listen and pay attention.
Yeah. So the other side of that, so we want to increase recovery time. We want to give ourselves more time between sets. We do not want to turn down the intensity, though.
No.
Right? So this is not an excuse to completely back off on intensity. And what does that mean? So let's say you're at rep 7 on any exercise, and you can go to 10, and you bail out at 7. That's backing off on intensity.
You can do 10, do 10.
Yeah. Let's say you normally do sprints on the bike or whatever, and instead of doing sprints, now you're just jogging and walking back.
Yeah.
So that's where you've turned down the intensity. So we're not talking about turning down training intensity. We're just talking about giving yourself more recovery time, both between sets and also between workouts.
Do you know, I'm going to tell you something from a woman's perspective. I trained my legs that day was Monday, and I really, really trained hard, and I was like hot and sweaty, and I actually chose my workout attire, my light gray tights. Mistake. Shouldn't have done that, because I'm sweating. And I'm looking over at a girl in the gym who's wearing white tights going, I could never wear white in the gym, because it's just, I trained to that point where my body is telling me I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm a mess. And so that's my intensity. That's where I go and train. If you're just going through the motions and you're not breaking into a sweat and you're not bringing up your body temperature and you're not pushing, that's your choice. But for me, I know that doesn't work.
Yeah. And I think you can figure out what that intensity looks like for you, because it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I'm on the flip side. I hardly ever sweat when I work out.
Okay.
So even maybe when it's blazing hot outside already, but otherwise I hardly ever sweat when I work out. As soon as I start feeling warm, I strip down to my tank top from whatever else I'm wearing over top of it, but I'm still not sweating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's just, we're very different.
Yeah. It's just how we're wired, right? So, but you need to figure that out. The point of all of that is, do not reduce your training intensity when you increase your rest time and that kind of thing. Okay. Number 3, and this one we can both appreciate, I know, I certainly can, is as you age, your joints are more sensitive.
Yes.
So be kind to your joints.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? What does that mean? It means warm up.
Warm up.
Warm up.
Drink lots of water. Don't
Yeah.
go in dehydrated, and be well hydrated, well rested. We've talked about sleep, and but it's also less impact. Like, why are people? Okay, I'm not bopping around when I have weights in my hands or weights attached to me.
Yeah.
I'm very mindful of my form.
Yep.
And I'm not jumping around.
Yeah, and that's a huge one right there, is form.
Form.
Right?
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody here where I said, he wanted to work out with me. So he came and worked out with me, not like a full-blown workout, but just came to work out. And I said, that's fine. And we were talking about different exercises, he's doing them. And I said to him, you have to remember, this is called weight lifting. It's not weight throwing. So we don't want to
swing in momentum.
Right? So we
don't do it.
Yeah, don't compromise your form.
No.
Right?
Let the muscle take the weight up and down. Don't and be mindful of your joints. And so don't start swinging and coming out of form.
Yeah, and the other thing that goes with that, all of that too, with your joints, is exercise choice.
Yeah.
There are certain exercises that you may find just are not good for your joints for certain things. So for example, skull crushers are not French press.
Brain busters or
skull crushers. Yeah. You know what? It's when you do this, right? You're laying down on the bench and you're basically doing this with a barbell. So for me,
which is a tricep exercise.
Yeah, but for me, it's not good for my elbows.
Right.
So I have to figure something out at that point. Either I can say, okay, I'm going to do some other exercises for my triceps first, so I don't have to go as heavy when I go to French press.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to remove it entirely and figure out an alternative.
I was going to say, don't do it at all, but do something in place of. It
So
doesn't mean that you go down an exercise. You just
Right.
switch it out for one that doesn't cause you any pain.
Yeah. So in my case, instead of doing French press, I do presses on the dip assist machine.
Right.
So, but you'll have to figure that out. There may be certain exercises that just don't work for you, for your joints.
And that's perfectly okay. It's okay. And part of, with age comes wisdom. Don't beat yourself up over the one that you can't do or is painful to do. Listen to your body and switch it out for one that works better for you.
Yeah. So just be aware of your joints. That one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Your joints will thank you. You will thank you.
Yeah.
The other thing is, it will improve the longevity of your time in the gym, where you don't have to stop going to the gym because your joints hurt so much.
Your joints hurt. You've got an injury,
right?
Maybe, and sometimes excessive. Doing things excessively incorrectly, you will get a chronic injury.
That's right.
So we want to avoid all that.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, number 4. You need to incorporate, as you get older, you need to incorporate more stretching and mobility in your exercise routine, in your workout plan.
Yeah. I do that. So right now I'm training 5 days a week in the gym. I have day 6 is a hot yoga mobility stretch, where I go in and in a warmer room, I'm doing 60 to 90 minutes of stretching, and then I get a rest day.
Yeah.
So just find what works for you.
Yeah, and just making sure, again, that you're warming up your joints and you're working your muscles and your ligaments through their full range of motion. That's what stretching is all about, right? It's not necessarily, you can do weight-bearing stretches. There's all sorts of different stretching techniques that you can do. And maybe we'll do an episode just talking about different stretching methodology. But it's very important as you age that you're incorporating that into your workout, so you also retain full range of motion.
Yep.
Right? So that you can scratch your back, for example.
You can still put your hands up over your head.
Right? So that's number 4. All right, number 5, you need to incorporate, as you age, more cardio into your workout plan. Simple as that. When we were, and this is going to kind of tie into the last 3, but when we were, kids, call us in our 20s, you can kind of eat whatever and wouldn't matter.
No.
Right? So, I remember those, I don't know if they're still around, but they were like these little mini pizzas that you microwaved.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I'd eat 4 of those right before bed.
Okay.
In my my late teens and 20s.
Yeah.
No problem. I was still rocking a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Right? So if I did that now, yeah, not so much.
Not so much.
Right? So anyway, that is to say that I did that back then without any cardio, right? I had to stop all my cardio so I could add more muscle back then.
That's right.
Right? Whereas now I need to make sure, and you need to make sure as you age, that you're incorporating cardio into your workout, some kind of cardio. You might, whether you're riding a bike, whether you're hiking, whether you're on a treadmill, whatever it is, doing stairs, you need to have some kind of cardio, and the minimum is probably 30 minutes a day.
And for some people, it's not every day. I do it 30 minutes, 5 days a week. But for some people, it's maybe 3 times a week. It's just figure out what works for you, but understand the importance of it.
Yeah. And from the heart point of view, in your cardiovascular system, you need to be looking at 20 to 30 minutes minimum 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, call that the base level.
Yeah.
And I would say this, and we've talked about starting where you're at quite a bit, that if you haven't done any cardio work, start with a walk around the block. But make a plan that you're not going to stay at a walk around the block, or you're going to walk up the street and back.
I walk up a mountain.
Sure. But you're not. But that's not the starting point, I guess, is the thing.
No.
Right? So figure out something that you can do, but realize that cardio is more important now than it's ever been, and especially for you to stay lean and keep quality body composition. So when we talk about body composition, that is the amount of fat we have, the amount of muscle we have, and how it's all spread out, laid out. And to keep the fat at a reasonable level, you need to incorporate that cardio more as we age. And to go with that goes right into number 6, which is consistency is more important as you age. Okay.
Yes. That to me, in my head, is number 1. To show up every day.
Yeah.
Show up for yourself every day.
Yeah.
And the person who, they kind of sort of go to the gym, or they wait until they've gone to that party or that event, and they overdrank and they ate all the wrong foods, and then they're going to go to the gym because that'll make it all good. It doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have to recognize that if you're going to do this thing, you need to make a decision and commit to it
and be consistent.
And I was talking to somebody actually last week. They're asking me about some ideas about training at home, and they had dumbbells, and we were talking about things. And they said, "Well, what's your goal? Where do you want to go?" And they kind of weren't sure. And I said, "Well, here's the thing. Number 1, without a destination, anywhere will do.
Yeah.
And number 2, you have to make a decision. And one of the root meanings of the word decision is to cut. So it actually means that you cut out other options outside of the decision that you make. So you need to make that decision. I'm going to the gym, or I'm going to hike this mountain. I'm going to do this many times a week, right? And that consistency is so important, right? So that's number 6. Number 7 kind of goes with all of that. Wrap it up with nutrition is more important.
Yes.
I don't think there's any. That's about as simple as it gets.
I often told my personal training clients it was always an 80-20 ratio. Nutrition is 80%, training is 20%, and you cannot out-train a bad diet.
That's it.
You can't. It's your building block. It's what we're made up of, and so what. And you know what? Like I said earlier in this podcast, you can make bad choices and poor choices, but have the knowledge behind it that you're aware of that. You're aware of what those choices are. Yeah. Because you can't plead ignorance forever.
And the thing is, if you consistently are making bad choices, then you're creating a habit.
You are.
And so on the flip side, we want to consistently make good choices so we can make good habits.
Yeah.
So that's it for today. 7 things no one tells you about adding muscle, building muscle in your 40s. And is it important? It's vitally important to be adding muscle as you age, because if you don't, or if you're not doing something about it, from the time you turn 30, you lose 3 to 3.5% or more, maybe even as high as 5% muscle mass every decade. So you want to do something to reverse that process. It's not it's not inevitable.
And for me personally, I didn't start building muscle until the age of 40.
All right.
So, you know what? I rode out in my 20s and 30s and then made that choice. I was all about cardio, only cardio. And then as my joints were starting to feel, to show the negative impact of that,
Yeah.
I started lifting weights at age 40. So this is really important stuff. And so, yeah, hopefully it resonates with a lot of you.
Yeah. So if you have, you know, we'd love to hear from you. What are you saying? Like, what is it something gee, I wish I'd have known this when I started training.
Yeah. Or if you have
here's what I've found out in my training experience.
And if you have any questions or you have any comments, please send them our way, because we love chatting about this. At this point, it's been a couple hours now because we always meet first. So
Right?
we love talking and helping and sharing. And if I always look at it like, if there's something I've learned that I can make it easier for someone else, happy to share.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today. If you haven't, please take a minute to subscribe. Say that fast 3 times.
No. It's all yours.
Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.